Have you ever wanted to speak to an experienced CEO and ask them what their biggest mistakes were in business and what they would do differently now? Well, if that sounds like you, then stay tuned. Well, hey there. I'm Kimberly Ferguson, CEO and founder of Emerald Expectations Accounting. I'm so happy that you're here. The Emerald Corner is a place where life and business meet. So I want to share with you the process of running a business while maintaining a life with your loved ones. In today's video, I want to talk to you about some of the biggest mistakes that I made in my business and what I would change now if I could go back. So for those of you who don't know, I have an accounting firm that I started about 7 years ago. So I have been doing this full time ever since then, day one. And these are the things that, looking back on the past 7 years as a business owner, I think were things that I would do differently, okay? So I will share with you the things that I think I did wrong and the things that I have implemented so that these things don't happen or that I don't do these things anymore. So let's jump in, shall we? So I'm going to work backwards, actually. So I'm going to say my number 5 mistake was not putting it in writing. So if you do work that you didn't put in writing, you have no legal recourse, right? So if you do the work and then they don't feel like paying you, they don't really have to. There is such a thing as a verbal agreement, and that is something that you can use, but it's going to be hard to prove that they agreed to pay you for these services. It's much easier, much quicker, much more efficient to just have it written down and then signed. So before starting any work with any clients, we always get an engagement letter signed that outlines all the services that we're going to provide, outlines things that we're not going to provide, timelines, expectations, all that stuff in writing. They sign it before we do any work. So number 4 is working before getting paid. I know this might be hard for some of you, especially if you're new. But basically what would happen is we would still get the engagement letter. We would still, get them to sign off on the work that we were going to be doing. We would start doing the work, finish it, and then we would send an invoice, right? That's kind of standard in some industries, right? And the problem is that either we wouldn't get paid, but they already had the finished deliverable, right? Or it would take them months and months to pay. That's a problem, right? It's a problem for any business, but it's especially a problem for a small business who, may only be working on one project at a time, and they spent however long working on that project, and you're going to wait, 6 months to pay them. That's huge in a small business. Going without however much money is huge in a small business. So one of the things that I have implemented is that if I know how much the job is going to be, you get the entire invoice and you have to pay it. If it's a big job, I might split it in half, but the thing is I'm still not going to do the work until I get paid. So if I split it in half, I'm doing half the work, and then I'm sending an invoice waiting for that to get paid, and then doing the second half of the work. Never giving anybody deliverables without the payment. So in my case, it would be a tax return. You do not get access to your tax return until you've paid your invoice. So those are some things that I've put in place in order to ensure that we get paid for the work that we do, because even if you have the documentation, it's possible that they could still fight you on it. And you can go through the process of going through collections or going to small claims court or whatever. But most of the time, you're just not going to get your money anyway, so you may as well cut your losses. So how do we avoid cutting our losses? And those are the things that we do to do that. So working before getting paid, don't do that. Number 3 is undervaluing your time. So this one is also very hard when you're first starting your business, but keep in mind that time that you spend working is time that you're not spending doing something else. And I think this is the hardest thing for most small business owners, especially in the beginning phases, because they're like, I need to make money. This is all I'm doing, and I have to spend every waking hour, every waking minute doing this job, right? But you also have a family or friends or hobbies or whatever, things that are more important than your business. I know that's hard. It's hard for me too. But Those things are more important. The only person who's going to remember how much time you spent at work is your family. So if you're going to do a job, make sure that you are valuing your time and weighing it against the time you could be spending with your family. That, I think, helps you to see the value of your time when it comes to billing for your services. So if you have clients or customers that you're working with who are basically getting like $25 an hour or something like that, you need to evaluate if those clients are worth it to you. And yes, sometimes that means letting clients go. It's just a hard truth and a hard reality of owning a business, but you need to weigh the time and the effort that they're taking away from your family. That's kind of how you have to think about it. Is it more valuable? Am I being compensated well enough to take me away from my family? And no, you might not be able to start like that. And I get that. It's not like every business owner can start charging $500 an hour. That's not how it works. And I get that. But work up to that, okay? Always keep in mind, I could be with my family right now. Am I getting paid enough to not be with them, okay? Especially if you have young kids who are being put in daycare or something like that, and you're paying for daycare. Am I being compensated enough to make up for daycare? That's a good question, right? So, number 3, undervaluing your time. Don't do it. So, number 2 is going out of scope. So, if you have everything written down and your client has signed off on it, and then they ask you to do something in addition to what was on that engagement letter or contract that they signed, doing that work is free labor. And again, free labor, free time that you could have been spending with your family. So don't do out of scope work at all. So you can either have professionals to refer them to for that out of scope stuff if it's, say, something that you don't want to do, something that's not valuable enough for you to do, or just make sure that you say, I would be happy to help you with that. However, it is out of scope for our current engagement, so it's something that would be billed at this hourly rate, or this is the flat fee for that. Whatever that looks like for you and your company, just make sure that you communicate that and get their approval. And I recommend doing an amendment to your engagement letter that just says, like, all the same stuff applies, except we're going to add this, and this is the fee for that we're adding. So, and then last but certainly not least, my number one thing that I would do differently is trying to do it all. I know. Especially as brand new business owners, we want to spend our time rather than our money, right? And that's understandable, especially if you don't have a full-time job or you don't have money coming from other sources. It's important for you to keep that money for your family, right? I get that. But as soon as you get to the point where you can afford to outsource it, do it. You will not regret it. You will not regret getting help. You will not regret having a professional taking care of something that you're not professional in. So it's not your expertise to handle your accounting, hire an accountant. You're not a professional at designing a website, hire a web designer. As soon as you're capable and your business can finance it, do it. Obviously, don't just go and hire the first Joe off the street. Do some research, try to find someone reputable, ask your friends, however you feel the best way to find those people is. But make sure that you do your research. You want to get somebody who is an expert, who's really going to add value to what you do, rather than somebody who you have to micromanage and make sure that they're actually doing things right? Well, what do you think? What are the biggest mistakes that you made in your business? Or if you're not in business yet, which one of these will you implement in order to save yourself a little bit of time and frustration in your business? Well, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me today. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.